Okay, sorry about that little technical difficulty. Jim Defede back with us. Hi, Jim.
Sorry about that. Can you at least tell me that when I froze, did I at least look good in the frozen?
You look like you had the
look good.
best poker face
best
ever.
Poker face.
Yeah.
I was like, Jim's really paying attention. So we just played that exchange that was hard to understand between Christie talking about Trump and trying to distance themselves from Trump, DeSantis and Christie. What was your reaction to that? Why couldn't DeSantis answer the question?
Because he doesn't really want to take Trump too much head on, which has been the problem in this entire primary so far, because neither Nikki Haley nor Ron DeSantis have really wanted to go directly at Donald Trump, the front runner. You saw them both do it a little bit more last night, on issues like the debt and a few other things, but Ron DeSantis doesn't want to say that Donald Trump is unfit to be president, which was the point that Chris Christie was trying to make and trying to press him. In his essence, Chris Christie was acting almost as a fourth moderator trying to get Ron DeSantis to answer the question.
Yeah, it's interesting. You wonder, are they running for vice president by not attacking him, or what's the deal?
Well, you see, the problem is that Ron DeSantis has chosen a really difficult lane to try to win the nomination, which is to be on the right of Donald Trump and try to convince Trump supporters that really he's the better choice than Donald Trump, because he can be in office theoretically for 8 years, whereas Donald Trump would only have 4 years. He tried initially to say, when he first launched his campaign, that he was more electable than Donald Trump, that he could beat Joe Biden and that Donald Trump probably wouldn't be able to beat Joe Biden. But that argument has failed because the polls show Donald Trump actually doing really well and actually beating Joe Biden in a lot of the polls. So he's had to try to go a different route, be more conservative, but that lane is really narrow, so he hasn't been able to do it as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's another exchange a lot of people talking about this morning. Nikki Haley, of course, was looking really good. She's now taking the brunt of attacks as she's getting more interest from those donors and voters out there looking into her. Vivek Ramaswamy called her corrupt. Let's play that sound, and then I want to ask you something.
You have a corruption problem, and I think that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house.
I always appreciate a prop. It seems like the attacks, though, against one another are becoming somewhat more personal. Nikki obviously attacked him back. What do we make of all this?
I thought this was the most interesting aspect of the debate. It wasn't even so much Vivek Ramaswamy attacking Nikki Haley, but Ron DeSantis attacking Nikki Haley. It shows you who they think is their biggest threat. And that certainly was the case also with Ron DeSantis attacking Nikki Haley. Look, Nikki Haley has momentum. When you do political coverage, everyone tries to figure out who's got momentum. Now, of course, it's momentum for second place. And as we talked about yesterday, I expected there to be a lot of attacks on Nikki Haley to try to pull her down, since she was gaining so much, at least relatively speaking, in terms of the contest between DeSantis and Haley. Really, if Ron DeSantis has to finish second in Iowa. If he doesn't finish second in Iowa, and probably within 10 points of Donald Trump, I don't see an argument for his campaign to continuing. Nikki Haley just has to survive in Iowa. She set up better in New Hampshire 8 days later. So if Nikki Haley can finish even a strong third to Ron DeSantis, she's got a ticket out of Iowa. A third place finish for Ron DeSantis in Iowa pretty much ends his campaign. So that's why you saw the attacks on Nikki Haley. And as far as Vivek goes, he's just trying to get airtime. Every time he opens his mouth, he becomes even more of a pariah, and his poll numbers continue to drop.
You mentioned the back and forth between Haley and DeSantis. We actually have an example of some of that. And of course, they're talking about the bathroom issue, which has become one of these major culture war issues. Let's take a listen.
When he was running for governor and they asked him about that, he said he didn't think bathroom bills were a good use of his time. You can go look that up.
I signed a bathroom bill in Florida, so that's obviously not true.
So the idea that you would say that I was against that.
You didn't. You killed it. I signed it. I stood up for little girls. You didn't do it.
This is one of these issues that we've been seeing played across the political field for the past couple of years now. Why this issue?
Evangelicals in Iowa. That's the short answer. This is all about so much of what Ron DeSantis was doing, as well as Nikki Haley, but particularly Ron DeSantis was trying to play to the evangelical vote in Iowa, which is incredibly strong and incredibly important. And so that's why you heard about bathroom bills. You heard about transgender athletes. You heard about gender reassignment surgery for children. Even Ron DeSantis' decision to name as his favorite president Calvin Coolidge is a subtle nod to ultra-conservatives and to the evangelical community that he's their guy. This is all about Iowa for Ron DeSantis and, to a lesser extent, Nikki Haley trying to serve with him there. But that's what this is about. Look, I thought the moderators in the debate last night did a pretty good job of drawing contrast. This was the one area where Megyn Kelly has an obsession about going after the transgender community and all those sorts of issues that play well in conservative talk shows and that Ron DeSantis enjoys talking about for that very reason. It's not a great issue, though, in a general election campaign.
All right, Jim Defede, we appreciate you joining us not once but twice this morning. Thank you.
Absolutely.